I clicked. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good whatever you may be, wherever you are. This is AMA number, wait for it, 13. AMA 13 already. Today is the 18th of June. Quick shout out to sister, Catherine, who's not watching. It is her birthday today. So I'll give a nice happy birthday to my younger sister. I have two siblings. Not everyone knows this. Surprisingly, I'm the oldest. You would never be able to tell. I have a brother, Michael, and then sister, Catherine, and they both live in New York. Hello, Angie. Very good to see you. Who's watching? Hi, Małgosia. Pani Małgosia. Hello. Konkretna. Dzień dobry wszystkich. We are very excited today. Have a super extra special guest, classing up the joint a little bit, as you will. Today, our guest is going to be Israeli Ambassador to Poland, Alexander Ben Zvi. We're going to hear about his career a little bit before he got to Poland, what it's like being the Israeli ambassador in Poland. He has a lot of interesting interests and hobbies that we'll talk with him about, and just an overall very, very cool guy. Good morning, Vicky. How are you, Victoria? So getting right into it, I thought to give a little Corona update in Poland. Things are almost all completely open. People are supposed to be wearing masks outside, I think, if they're not 2 meters apart, but nobody's wearing masks except more or less me and Kasha and everybody inside the JCC. We're a very strict institution. We like our masks. But things continue to be open and cases continue to rise. We're not too sure about in this area. Overall in Poland, they're rising, but a lot of that is coming from the southwest of Poland. Hello, Chuck. Hello, Jeffrey Rolat. Hello, Dorotko. Nice to see everyone. Hi, Kasia Suszkiewicz, different Kasia. There are a few very popular names in Poland. Kasia, Anna, Magda, Gosia. So I think that's about half of the female population has those four names. Jeffrey's representing Benji. I know Benji is not here today. I only wearing gray. I should have worn black. Mourning that Benji is not here. Good morning, Marcel. Dzień dobry, Marcel. How are you? Marcel Zielinski in Montreal, our Ride for the Living hero. So in terms of cases continue to rise in Poland, things continue to be open. On June 13th, a few days ago, we opened the borders within the EU. And then on the 16th, 2 days ago, international flights continued to and from Poland, except, and this was a last minute decision, except the UK, Sweden, and Portugal. But they didn't exactly say why that is. LOT will start flying on July 1st to Schengen and then to other places all around Europe. So that's where we are generally in terms of Corona. In terms of what else is going on in Poland, we talked a little bit last week about the very harmful, terrible, I think just nasty, despicable comments made by the Polish president, who really never said anything like that before at that level. About the LGBT community, saying that LGBT is not an ideology. It's not people, it's an ideology, which is of course something ridiculous. LGBT people are people like anyone else, goes without saying, it's self-evident, but there you go. So that was last week, but considering that the presidential elections are June 28th and the ruling party has completely taken over the public media, public television especially. So public television has just really done a great job of propaganda for the current president. So first it was the LGBT community, and then of course, when you're done with the LGBT community, who's next? The Jews. So the Polish public TV of course, big stories saying how the current president, Duda, who they favor, who is from the right, will protect Poland against the international forces that are trying to come and take back all the Polish property through these restitution issues. So restitution is a big issue in Poland, in the Jewish world. Most other countries, all other countries in this part of the world have signed deals with the Jewish world, let's say, or have come to agreements with the different Jewish bodies to give back Jewish private property. Poland is the one country that doesn't have an agreement. Very complicated in Poland, not to make excuses, but the idea is that it's very complicated in Poland because of the size of the Jewish pre-war community, because of what happened also that the communists then nationalized everything after the Nazis took everything. So there isn't an agreement. If you're Jewish and your family had property here before the war, you have to go to a regular Polish court to try to get that property back. And there's a fear that the far right in Poland plays on, that the Jews are all coming back to get the property. That this is a huge issue, which plays on the fear on the Polish right wing of these, foreign Jews coming and taking property back, which is not happening, not a real issue. So just the Polish public TV trying to make that into an issue that it isn't, and sort of scare people and keep people from voting for the main opposition party, who is a candidate that's the more liberal candidate, who's the mayor of Warsaw. So, what's certainly clear is that everywhere in the world, and Poland, no exception, that elections bring out the worst in ruling parties. I understand the feed is a little choppy. There's a question, can we still say that Poland is a safe country for the Jews? Jerzy Wojcik. Hello, Jerzy. Yes, I think that Poland is still a safe country for the Jews. We have to, when we look at problems here in Poland within the Jewish community, or that the government says things that can be taken as anti-Israel or anti-Semitic, or attacking George Soros as the puppet master, we have to also understand that those are real issues and we need to fight against them. But what does it look like Jews in other places in the world? So to be Jewish in Poland today is still safe. Those of us who are Jewish, even people who are openly Jewish, not like me, who walk around with a kippah, I don't think feel particular threat walking down the streets in Poland. Institutions don't feel particularly threatened, but there are certainly, in the last few years, there have been many warning signs and things which have upset us. So to be able to say that Poland is a safe country for Jews is not to say that there aren't problems for Jews in Poland like there are anywhere else. I would also maybe look at it and say that relative to what Jews are going through in many other places in Europe, Poland still continues to be, I think, a safe place relative to them. Damian, Soraim Tovim Damian, good to see you. Hello, Dota Szymborska, very, very active virtual Ride for the Living participant and just an amazing athlete in Poland. So that's sort of where we are. I hope the audio is better. Hi, Linda. How are you, Linda, who sent photos? Our press release for Virtual Ride for the Living went out with Linda's photo looking good in her 2020 Virtual Ride for the Living jersey. I'm going to get into some questions that you have for me. First, I'd like to talk about what, besides the politics and the coronavirus, what I've been up to. JCC still open. Kids are here, only the kids and me pretty much. What I've been doing outside of work, I read a good book that a friend, Vicky, gave me, called autobiography of Bob Iger, who's the chairman of Disney. Very interesting book in terms of management. I'm not really a very big Disney fan. I always felt that they were the sort of kind of somewhat evil corporation that creates this kind of fake reality and over controlling things. But I have to say that I love the book, certainly from a management perspective, as somebody who's trying all the time to be a better manager, to read hints from people that have been successful managers, and he's running a company with 200,000 employees. So I found that very good. That was the Bob Iger's The Ride of a Lifetime is the name of the book. Thank you for putting that up there, Seb. Very good article I read in, Sebastian's asking about, I understand it's a choppy feed. I am on the good Wi-Fi here, so I don't know why it's choppy. There's a storm outside. I think that might have something to do with it. Sorry about that, you guys. It's me, as they say, it's me, it's not you. But I was saying that very interesting interview with Jon Stewart from The Daily Show, which is now Trevor Noah doing a fantastic job hosting. But Jon Stewart, I think for 16 or so years, was the host of The Daily Show, did a phenomenal job, and is really just a keen political, has keen political insight, is really phenomenal. I think just mind, very interesting, not only a comedian, but something much deeper than that. Sometimes we have words like comedians for people that don't fit exactly into these categories. I would put Dave Chappelle in that category as well. Somebody who's officially a comedian, but is to me just a genius and who commenting on social issues that happens to be funny and happens to have a comedic mind. But I don't think comedian is how I would look at either Jon Stewart or Dave Chappelle. Hello, Kasha Leonardi checking in. Nice to see you, Kasha. Hi, Richard Rosenthal. What else? We've been watching, there's a 30 for 30, which is a good documentary series on ESPN about Bruce Lee. I recently read a book about Bruce Lee. I've always been sort of interested in Bruce Lee, and there's a very good documentary called Be Water. That's something like he said. Be Water was one of Bruce Lee's most famous quotes in talking about his sort of theory for martial arts, which I think extended really much beyond martial arts, but this idea of being flexible, when you pour water into any vessel, it takes on the shape of the vessel, and we should be that way. I mentioned that to Kasha, who laughed about it because she thinks that I'm the least flexible person there is, but which is not exactly true. I can be somewhat stubborn and difficult, but I will now try to be more like Bruce Lee and be like water. Another thing we watched, King of Staten Island, which is a movie that just came out. It was supposed to come out in the theaters, but it was on video on demand, or for someone like me, watched it on torrents, downloaded the torrent. So the King of Staten Island, interesting movie. Not a very easy watch, not really very funny, made by Judd Apatow, who's did 40-Year-Old Virgin and a few other movies, recent movie with Amy Schumer. But a very interesting watch, this King of Staten Island. Plus, it's always good as a New Yorker to see Staten Island, which is the forgotten borough, to see Staten Island get a little bit of love, which it doesn't usually get. So that's kind of what we've been up to besides work. Very, very busy, of course, with Ride for the Living in terms of what's been going on with virtual Ride for the Living. That was a question. How many people are doing the virtual ride? Can you still sign up? Still plenty of time to sign up. We have more than 2 weeks left of the period. You'll just have a little bit of a shorter period to do your stuff, to do your 60 miles or more or less. But we have passed, ready for it, drum roll. We have passed 1,000 participants in virtual Ride for the Living. Unbelievable. Thanks for all you guys for being part of it, getting your friends out there. But there's plenty more space since there's unlimited space. So over 1,000 people doing the ride. Get out there, get your friends to sign up. I should mention, if you make a $180 donation, you get a jersey, or if you get 18 of your friends to sign up, free jersey. We'll send you the free jersey. So it's a beautiful jersey. I think you see it hanging up behind me. So that's a great thing. If you want to sign up, that would be fantastic. The more, the merrier. It's a great way to get in shape. People are sending in all kinds of photos. There's a great Facebook group, over 300 people just on the Facebook group, people sending photos where they are, sharing their activities, what they've been up to, where they're riding or walking or running and getting in shape. Again, takes 2 minutes to sign up. It's free, and there's no fundraising minimum, no fundraising requirement. question about Latka Hamantash. Yeah, we're doing it again this year. That's always a big thing that we do during the festival, the Latka versus Hamantash debate, which started at the University of Chicago years and years ago. It is a question about what is the most perfect Jewish food. Latka versus Hamantash. And this year we're doing it, we are doing it virtually. So it is my, I want to make sure we have plenty of time with the ambassador. So it is my absolute great pleasure to introduce the Israeli ambassador to Poland, Alexander Ben Zvi. He is a phenomenal guy. PhD in international relations, has worked all over the world, Costa Rica, Slovakia, Argentina, Russia. Now we're very lucky to have him as our ambassador in Poland. So my great honor to welcome you, Ambassador Alexander Ben Zvi. Welcome to my AMA.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
And where are you? It's always the most interesting question.
I'm at home.
You're at home. So I understand the embassy is
in Warsaw.
The embassy is still closed.
No, the embassy works normally. The embassy works normal. No problem at all.
Okay, good. And how long have you been back at work in the embassy?
No, the embassy works all the time. We never stopped, actually.
The embassy never stopped. See that? For the Israelis watching, look at your tax dollars hard at work. Everybody else shut down. The Israeli embassy kept going.
It kept going, smaller stuff, changing, not all the people all the time, but the embassy is open all the time.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's good to know. Tell me, how long have you been, so just to maybe talk a little bit about your experience here. How long have you been the ambassador in Poland?
Well, I'm since September last year, but we have to remember this is not my first time in Poland. I worked here in my first diplomatic mission from 1986 to 1989, in a different time of Poland.
A very different time. And so you already spoke Polish when you got here?
Yes, I did.
And
yes,
that's so I was going to ask you, I know that you speak 7 languages. And as somebody who's immensely struggled to learn Polish over these 18 years that I've been here, I want to ask, how does Polish rank in terms of the languages that you speak, in terms of difficulty?
Well, I'm not a good example because I speak Russian and Ukrainian as mother tongue. So, speaking those two, Polish, I studied Polish at the university even before I joined the foreign ministry. And then, of course, 3 years here. And then I spent some time in Slovakia. So the Slavic languages generally I'm very fluent in, so I have no problem at all.
It's always a huge advantage if you have some idea about the structure of a Polish.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
For Americans like me, very difficult language.
I can understand. My wife struggles with it as well, I have to say.
So getting into it in terms of your job, it's a country that you know very well. The Slavic culture, also something that you're, of course, very familiar with. But being the ambassador in Poland, does it present unique challenges overall? And how much of that challenge has to do with the history of the Holocaust?
Well, yes and yes. I would answer this. It has. It's not only the history of Holocaust. Generally, we can speak about the Jewish history in Poland, which goes back for 1,000 years, with all its ups and downs during different ages and different years. And definitely it is more vivid or more acute, let's say, during the wartime, Second World War times, and whatever all that happened during that time, and a little bit even later. It's not only war times. We still remember there were problems, for example, in 1968 and so on. But I have to say one thing, it influences as well, of course, and we have to remember it. But in all my interviews, when I speak here on the radio and television, and many people ask me this question. I always say, well, we have to remember, well, we should not convert it in a working program for the future, because we have enough other subjects. Again, not forgetting this. We can never forget it. We are not allowed to forget it. But we should not make it the only subject in our work between Israel and Poland.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, we've been, our work here at the JCC for 12 years has been to try to say, when you take a look at the Polish-Jewish situation, there are really three aspects of it. One is the tragedy of the Holocaust, which often can overshadow things. The second is 1,000 years of Jewish history here, which you spoke about. And the third is, wait a minute, there is actually Jewish life. There is a rebirth of Jewish life. There are young people who are finding out and it's all happening in an environment that is actually a pretty pro-Jewish, and I would say also a pro-Israeli environment here in Poland, which is not the case everywhere in Europe.
It's not the case everywhere in Europe, because look, it's many times we had it, for different reasons. Many people ask me, is Poland an anti-Semitic country? And my answer is all the time the same. It is not anti-Semitic country. We do have, from time to time, anti-Semitic episodes, and we should not tolerate them, and we should denounce them, and we should act about them. But generally, to say that Poland is an anti-Semitic country, it's absolutely not true. And if you compare it to many European countries, and not only European countries, and you will see that definitely the situation here is better than in many of them.
I would agree. And what's really surprised me, and what surprises many people, is the amount of non-Jewish interest in everything Jewish. The fascination from the festivals, focus on Israeli culture, and Edgar Keret being such a popular writer here, or Jewish culture festivals like the one in Krakow, the largest in Europe, if not the world, the Singer Festival in Warsaw. There's such a tremendous interest really among non-Jews. Did that surprise you when you came here? Were you expecting that? Did you know about that?
It's not surprised me, because when I arrived first time in 1986, it already started to appear. People took interest in all what is Jewish, Israeli. Many Jews were finding their roots, or people from Jewish origin finding their roots. Many non-Jews actually that heard about the Jewish culture in Poland. And later on, it was almost none, especially during the socialist times. So they suddenly had the opportunity to to feel what their grandparents and so on had together with their Jewish neighbors in those small villages. And not only small villages, in the big cities. We remember that before the war, Warsaw was 30% Jewish, and Lublin was almost 50% Jewish. And, many small towns were more than 50% Jewish. So people lived together. They recognized the culture of each other, and actually the history of each other. I always say there is no Jewish history without Poland, and there is no Polish history without Jewish history. We have to remember that. Those 1,000 years of common history make it, I would say, inseparable. With Absolutely. All the ups and downs.
No question, lots of ups and downs. And I think that the complicated nature of the history also makes it what sometimes Polish-Israeli or Polish-Jewish relations are complicated. When so living here for a long time, and as an Israeli citizen, and I moved here from Israel, as it was very interesting to me how friendly the country was. And I looked at, especially, in 2002, 2003, very difficult time, then in Europe, for the perception of Israel and of Israelis. And it's really something that I've thought a lot about. Why beyond the history, why is Israel seen in such a positive light in Poland, when if you go really to Western Europe, it's very much a difference? And for me, there were really two large reasons. And one is that I think Poland is in a difficult neighborhood in Europe. If you see Poland between Russia and Germany, and I think that there's an idea of Israel is also in a very tough neighborhood, and they like the idea of this underdog Israel that has been able to stand up against its neighbors and constantly sort of feeling, this pressure of war. And the other thing is that there are so many Poles who really built Israel, and that these Poles that had lived for almost 1,000 years, these Jews that had lived for 1,000 years in Poland, suddenly moved to Israel and became this violent, aggressive people. It just never really sat right with Poles. And I think they said, wait, these are our Jews. We know what they're like. And that's not the stereotype that I might be seeing on BBC or something, for example.
Well, I do agree to some of those, I would say, assumptions. This thing that, Poland lives in a difficult neighborhood. Actually, I heard it from several Polish politicians as well. So I think there is something in it. Definitely Jews from Poland, many of them were very, very prominent in the establishment of State of Israel. Take Ben Gurion, for example, who was born in Płonsk, or Yitzhak Shamir, Menachem Begin, who studied law in the Warsaw University, and so on. So definitely they were very, very much involved at the beginnings of the State of Israel. By the way, many ask me today, why is it still so now? And the answer is no. The answer is because there is no influx of Polish, immigration to Israel like it was, in the 40s and the 50s or before even. So now the Polish language and the Polish culture is still present in Israel, and still people are interested, but it's not the same way it was, let's say, 50, 60 years ago. I'm definitely, I would say there are certain issues that not only in Poland, in the whole Central Europe. It's true if you speak about Poland and Czech Republic and Slovakia and Hungary and Romania and Bulgaria, that those former Soviet bloc countries that suddenly became independent and found in Israel a solid partner for their economic development, for their trade, and so on. Not only the feeling of common goal and common destiny, but actually common interests.
No question. So I sort of following up on that, a few years ago, with the issue in terms of this law, the IPN law, which really created a problem between Poland and the Jewish world, Poland and Israel, where I think we're behind that, although I get still, I'm sure you do also get questions about that. What would you say, how would you say these days, how would you classify Israeli-Polish relations on a diplomatic level? And then I also want to talk about on a tourist level and stuff, maybe pre-corona, because obviously things these days is not, but things were certainly going in a certain direction, but maybe starting with the diplomatic level.
Well, now we always have, we have good relations. We had, as I said, as in general, also we had the ups and downs. First the IPN law, then the amendment of the IPN law, then the joint declaration of the two prime ministers, and then there were several declarations on both sides which were not, I would say, very serving well the relations between the two countries. So I think now we have a new government in Israel. We have a new government, relatively new government in Poland. We had a very good conversation between our foreign ministers. Our foreign minister was invited to visit Poland, and we're waiting, for this Corona issue to finish in order to really do it as soon as possible. As we have very good contacts on the level of the foreign ministers, on the level of different ministers. We just had a day before yesterday. Yesterday. I'm sorry. Yesterday it was. You see, time flies fast. We had a very, very good web seminar on water resources management between our two ministries of agriculture. 150 people participated with the two ministers from our side, the new minister Schuster and from the Polish side, Minister Ardanowski. So we had it all the time. And I know yesterday's seminar just showed how much interest we have in cooperation, as you said, not only in the political level, but on the economic level. We have around $1 billion of our trade volume. It's low. I can tell you, one of the things that I see as my task here is to increase the volume of trade, because the potential is much bigger. We are buying from Poland, some food stuff. I mean, meat, some milk products, and so on. And we're selling, and this is the majority of the trade. By the way, Poland is selling more than $700 million to Israel, and Israel is selling around $200 million to Poland. But we are mainly specializing in high tech and things like that. But the potential is much higher. And you mentioned tourism. Look, last year, before the corona, let's say 2019, we finished with 300,000 Israeli tourists in Poland. 300,000. It was almost 60 flights a week. 60 flights a week.
It's a huge change. It's a huge change from what it was not too long ago.
Yeah, 4 flights a day from Warsaw. And then you have from Krakow and from Gdansk and Wrocław and Poznan and I mean, 300,000 Israeli tourists came to Poland. And by the way, it's not one-way traffic. Around 170,000 Polish tourists visited Israel last year.
And I think a big change of that is, and it used to be, in the time that I've been here, people would come here to go to the camps. And now, people joke about it, but if you go to the mall, you go to Złote Tarasy, or you go to the mall here in Krakow, and you hear every third person is speaking Hebrew.
Yes.
In Poland, Israel is very expensive. Poland is, the shekel is strong, and Israelis are coming here to do shopping, which I think is great. As they see, you want them to see other things, but let it be, on that level, not only seeing the camps, and I think also on the other side. It was very much limited. Poles years ago would go to Israel on pilgrimage, right? They would go to Jerusalem, True. To Bethlehem only, and they wouldn't necessarily go. And now, I'm pretty frequently in Israel pre-corona, and you walk down the street in Tel Aviv, and you hear Polish, and you see young Poles who understand that it's a very vibrant country, it's a very open country, it's a very liberal country, and there's really a desire to connect. Israeli food, Middle Eastern food, incredibly popular in Poland. Supermarkets full of hummus and stuff opening. So it's really developing, I guess, on every level.
True, absolutely. And we are trying even to change a little bit the structure of those visits, because not only, especially about the young, we're speaking about the young people, because I think this is the future. And we started more and more promote the exchange of youth delegations between the cities that have agreements. For example, Lublin has agreement with Rishon LeZion. And so the youth delegations from Rishon LeZion came to Lublin for 2 weeks, stayed in the houses of their, colleagues, and later from Lublin, the similar delegation came to Israel, to Rishon LeZion, and stayed in the houses of their friends, Israeli friends. And the same is with Poznan and Ra'anana. And we are trying to do more and more like this. I was lately in Wrocław last week. Suddenly, I found out that Wrocław has an agreement with Ramat Gan, which I didn't know. So we will start now, for example, to encourage both cities to engage in cooperation, economic, touristic, youth exchange, cultural, and so on. By the way, Krakow doesn't have an agreement with such a city in Israel, I have to say.
We need to work on that. I'm voting for either. I'm of course biased, but I would go for Tel Aviv or for Yotvata.
Well, Tel Aviv is taken by Warsaw, So we have to find another one. Yotvita is a little bit smaller.
Real small.
Yeah. Although the good milk products there are excellent.
Exactly. There's good opportunity for agricultural contact.
I know, but we'll find something for Krakow. When I met the mayor of Krakow, we agreed that we have to find a city.
Maybe Eilat.
Eilat. We'll find something bigger. We'll find something bigger. One of the bigger cities. We'll do our best. We'll see.
Fair enough.
But as I said, we didn't speak about the cultural exchange because, well, again, now Corona with all the problems, but for the festival in Krakow, for other festivals, we always have Israeli artists coming. We have Polish artists to come to Israel. Some of, for example, Poland was for decades known for its excellent jazz, very high level. And it's very popular in Israel. And the Israeli singers now are known in Europe, especially, participating in all the Eurovision song contests. And, so definitely we have a lot of things to cooperate. And we are doing now our best. And as I said, cooperating on the ministerial level with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with other ministries, on economic issues. You cannot imagine. We are doing at the end of this month a special seminar on e-mobility. A subject that we are much more interested because we have companies like Mobileye and others that are developing autonomous cars and other companies. So all the time we are trying to find people, companies that could work together. And one thing I always, and I hope the people that watch us and hear us should remember, it's not one way. And that's why I'm always trying to tell my Polish colleagues that I'm always giving an example of very excellent Polish company called Asseco. It's a high-tech company, big high-tech company, that bought in Israel several startups, several companies. Some of them are startups. I mean, it's not only one way that there are not only Israeli investors in Poland that we have in developing and others, but there are already Polish investors in Israel. And that's what actually encouraging in all this thing.
Absolutely. And the Polish high-tech industry, obviously Israel, Poland, looks to Israel as much of the world does as a leader in high-tech. And it's, it's a three hour and 15-minute flight away. So they don't need to go to the Far East. They don't need to go to the US and Canada. So it's a very natural, and I can't tell you how many people, there's just, I think, a natural connection. So many Israelis have come here that have never been here, and they walk down the street and they said they feel like they're at home. There's this sort of genetic memory of this, which, so it seems very, very natural. And the farther, the farther you can take a step back and not only see it through the 20th century and through the middle of the 20th century, it makes it much easier to do these things. And it's such an obvious natural connection.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So moving toward, it's interesting. We don't have most people really don't have much of an opportunity to hear from an ambassador about what it's like to be an ambassador. So my first question, just sort of maybe touching on that a little bit, how much in terms of the job of ambassador? Everybody, ambassador, they don't exactly understand. It's not self-evident what that means. So how much of your job is dealing with diplomacy, or like real top-level diplomatic issues? How much is business that, there's trying to encourage trade going back and forth? How much is sort of the consular issues? Some problems. I mean, I know there's obviously staff dealing with all of these things, not you directly, but in terms of what you oversee, how is the division of what you do?
Well, the division, let's say the division of what embassy does, because yes, I'm supervising. Okay. But as you said, we have very good stuff here. Some of them are dealing with political affairs. We deal with what it is called public diplomacy. Public diplomacy, which means media, digital media, normally, television, newspapers, and so on. Cultural affairs. Consular affairs, because, when you speak about 300,000 Israelis coming to Poland, somebody forgot his passport in Zloty Tarasy. The other one fell down on, on the river of I don't know where, in the Dunayets when he was there, and so on. I mean, we have all the time, all different questions, economic issues. On normal times, we do business seminars and we do delegations of business people, either providing business-to-business meetings and so on. So the work is actually very, very diversified. It's not that all the time you go to the foreign ministry and you speak about the world peace. Nobody speaks about world peace now. But you do speak about our bilateral issues. You do speak about, for example, some common issues in the European Union. Just to give you an example, yesterday, Israel and the European Union signed an agreement on air travel. It's the Open Sky Agreement, and which is a very important agreement. And you work on that, and it's in interest of Israel, of course, but it's also interest of Europe. And we were part of the program called Horizon 2020. It was the scientific research program of European Union, which Poland is a part, and we were part. And we invested money and knowledge. And now there is a new program called Europe Horizon, and we would be part of this program as well. So you deal with this. You deal with the positions in the international organizations, in the United Nations, in other organizations, World Health Organization or World Trade Organization. So each one has interests, and we have sometimes to support each other. So we are cooperating on those issues. So it's very, very diversified. You have very nice moments. You have not very pleasant moments, but when you have to deal with some consular issues, sometimes are tragic, or from time to time you deal with very happy occasions, the special festivals or things that we do here, and you hear a lot of compliments on our achievements. So it's a little bit of everything. It's very, I can tell you that to be a diplomat is a very, very interesting profession. As it's everything, it's new thing almost every day. And don't forget that, as you said at the beginning, this is my 7th diplomatic posting. So I'm a big fan of Manchester City. Okay. And I'm a fan of Barcelona as well. And in Israel, it's Maccabi Haifa. I'm from Haifa originally, so Maccabi Haifa is my team in Israel. And in Poland, I didn't see games, so it's a little bit difficult for me to see, because I don't know yet. Well, I know what teams are here, but I didn't choose a team to be.
We had a few years ago, we had some very good Israeli football players here.
Yes, you still have one.
Dudu Biton and
Maor Melikson was playing.
Maor Melikson, of course.
Yes, but now still there is one in Krakow, in Wisla. He's playing with an Israeli player.
He comes to synagogue.
Yes, so there is an Israeli playing in Wisla, and there is an Israeli playing for 2nd division in, I think, Kielce.
And a difficult question that I'm sure you won't answer. Who has better football, Israel or Poland?
Well, this is not a difficult question. Definitely Poland.
Yeah, you're right.
Definitely Poland. It's not a difficult question, and see the results of the last 2 games. So I'm not speaking at least the league. You have to differentiate between the league and the national team.
Right.
Because many of the Polish players are playing for really big clubs. Yeah. You cannot compare somebody. Well, we don't have somebody like Lewandowski. Okay, we have a couple of very good players playing abroad. In Austria, we have Sean Weissman, we have Manos Dabur in Spain, but they're not on the same level. They're very good, but still we have a way to go. We have next year, we are playing still the semi-finals for qualifications against Scotland. So we have still the chance to go in European finals. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We're playing Scotland, but the problem is it's in Scotland. So,
yeah. So there's a few questions that I always ask my guests at the end. One, because every year we do a big Latka Hamantash debate, for which is the most perfect Jewish food, Latka or Hamantash. So are you team Latka or team Hamantash?
Definitely Latka.
Yes.
Definitely Latka.
Yeah.
Because latkes you can do either salty or sweet, and salty latkes with a nice drink next to it is the perfect combination. Try it. You will enjoy every moment.
I am with you. I am all the way on team Latka.
Then latkes, if you like it salty, add a little bit of onions inside. That's it.
People always say, why do you live in Poland for 18 years? I say, because you can go into any restaurant anywhere and get latkes year round.
That's true. I'm latkes guy. Yeah, definitely.
And the other question I like to ask is, what are your 3 favorite movies?
Well, I'm a big fan of Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks is my, so I definitely love all his movies. Because the Jewish motif in his movies is very strong. And any movie you take is a really funny stuff. One of the more, I would say, movies that I remember is Forrest Gump. I love this movie. And, there are many, I can say. I like action movies and I like comedies also. So that's the action movies and comedies are I love James Bond movies. Love James Bond movies. I'm waiting for the new one.
Yeah, me too. Who's your favorite Bond?
That's a difficult one. I liked Roger Moore. Pierce Brosnan was not bad. Daniel Craig, okay, Daniel Craig. I didn't like there are a couple of that were,
I like Daniel Craig.
Dalton and there was, well, of course, the first one, but now Sean Connery is a little bit,
Yeah.
But
I think it depends if you've read the books and you like the books, because Daniel Craig he's much tougher and meaner in the books than he started to be. Daniel Craig is a return to the books.
Yes, and now, well, the spoiler for those who do not know, they're speaking the new movie. He finds a lost daughter. His lost daughter.
Oh, you heard it here first. You heard it here. I didn't know that.
It's a spoiler.
There you go. Spoiler. But yeah, I'm excited for the new one. They keep changing the release date, but we'll see.
Yes, that's true.
Well, Sir Ambassador, we're just running out of time. It's been an incredible pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all that you do to bring Israel and Poland closer, and also from my point of view, also that you're such a friend to the local Jewish community here in Poland.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And see you soon in Krakow.
Exactly.
Thank you. Be well.
Bye.
Bye.